Authors made their voices heard during this unprecedented time. What provokes them to write? And how is writing currently guiding society? Well, these are some of the questions that will hopefully be answered in a two-day academic and non-fiction Authors Association of South Africa International Virtual Conference taking place on the 29th and the 30th of April. One of the speakers at the conference is Professor Sihawukele Ngubane, who is the head of teaching and learning in the School of Arts at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. The Onomastician and an author of educational and literary isiZulu books joins me now via Zoom to tell us more. Professor, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Welcome and good morning, Nkosi.
Siyabonga Baba. Just give us a brief introduction into what is really behind the power of authors.
The power of authors, as we have alluded to, it's to explore and debate and re-establish authors' role and their status in the public. So we are saying it is about authors and it is by authors themselves. They will be debating and arguing about their role and their influence in the society. So that is the main objective of the conference.
Why is this such an important conversation to have with the authors?
It is very important because authors are a mirror of a society. The Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association is mainly focused is a member-driven association that enhances the profile of the status. So it's very important, and we also want to have a platform for authors to be known and to be recognized and to have a reward for what they do, because it is part of the intellectual property that needs to be incentivized. So this is mainly to share ideas from authors all over the world. We have authors from all over the world that will be participating. So it is important to compare notes between authors and their role in the society. And it's very important because they take stock of what is going on in any society.
And I suppose that sharing ideas with various authors from all over the world is the cornerstone of this conversation. So what are the questions that you would like answered at the end of this conference?
The questions that we would like to answer is the effectiveness of writing and authors in the context of South Africa and by African, because writing is about knowledge sharing, and we want to make sure that authors' voice is felt within the society. So I think it is mainly that's the main reason why we gather in this conference, because it is the first of its kind that we could afford to invite all authors to come together virtually and have these discussions.
You touched on a very important subject of whether writers do have a voice. That is a big question. Do they have a voice, especially in the South African context?
They do have a voice, but this voice is silenced by many forces and external forces. Like, as Authors Association, we don't even get support from the local people. We also have to showcase and demonstrate ourselves so that we can be heard. But at the moment, we are silenced by many forces. And I think this conference is going to expose us towards that kind of recognition of our voices as authors.
How do we remedy this? Because it is, in the long term, going to affect learners, going to affect the literary space here in South Africa. How do we remedy this kind of silence?
You see, the response to this question may be in twofold, because we are dealing with academic text, which is also educational books that are prescribed from universities and schools. That is not a problem, but people who are creators of that knowledge are kept outside of the picture they are not rewarded as they are supposed to be.
Yes.
And the other thing that I think we can remedy this situation is by introducing the public lending right. In other countries, they have explored this, and they have introduced the public lending right, so that when you go to a library and you loan a book, there is something that goes to the author. Some of our books as African academics and African writers are gathering dust in the shelves, and we don't get market if it doesn't go to school. So I think it is very important that this issue of the voice and recognition of the authors is told, and you are the right platform to try and advocate this.
You know, Professor, product approached has been used in so many writing classrooms since the 1970s. I mean, for example, teachers using the product approach put more focus on the grammatical features of the text and, the organization of the text rather than the ideas and the thoughts within the text. Why is this the case, though?
I think they need some learning and training, because the idea of an academic test is instructive in a way. It's designed to instruct readers on a particular subject, and it also responds to some philosophical questions and insight. And the books from traditional philosophy of scholars such as Plato and Aristotle. So those kind of philosophical questions can easily be responded to if teachers teach the ideas of people who have written books before, taking it from their memos and from their history books. I think the thing is the syllabus and the curriculum. People, when they teach, they focus on what is expected for examination, and they just teach that only without giving an opportunity to the learners to achieve more insight in their teaching. So I think it is important that we do speak about these issues, that students need to be developed holistically, not only to focus on what is required for examination, because the idea of teaching and using these academic books is to stimulate their mind and provide them with more knowledge, with new knowledge that they can use to develop themselves. So it is part of development.
Okay. And what role do authors play in shaping society and conversations in general?
We run seminars, we write books, and we talk about these things in our writings, because non-fiction is just for that. We write about issues, topics that we think that are of interest for the society, and we also run workshops, and we are hosting this conference, and this is part of the strategy of reaching out to the society, and the society is enriched by the information and knowledge that we share.
Okay. Now, are we investing enough in our authors, and what needs to be done to change the status quo?
My response to that question is that we are not investing much in the authors. People are writing behind scene. They are using their own facilities, their own data, their own material. There's no support for writers in our country. Like in other countries abroad. I think we need to sit down and negotiate with those people who are decision makers to try and support writing. Like during this time of COVID, everyone is sitting in the corner and trying to write, and there's no help whatsoever.
Okay.
So I think it is very important that we lobby for our government to assist authors by all means, because we need to produce our own knowledge. instead of importing knowledge from outside, because we need to have a knowledge that is within the context of our country and our cultural phenomenon. I think all our own history, we need to write about our own history. We need to create biographies of people who are of importance and significance in our country. By that, if you don't have support, then you can't produce books.
All right. Professor Ngubane, we thank you for your time. It really was a stimulating conversation. We appreciate it.
We really appreciate your invitation, Baba Siabo.
All right. Thank you. Well, that was Professor Sihawukele Ngubane. He is the head of teaching and learning at the School of Arts at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He's an Onomastician and an author, and is one of the speakers at the two-day conference hosted by the Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association of South Africa on the 29th and the 30th of April.